video we have discussed about what are various principles of chemotherapy or antimicrobial therapy. Now we will go with in detail discussion about each principle. The first principle is the selection of antimicrobial agent. So this selection of antimicrobial agent is utmost important in the chemotherapy practice, because whenever you are going with a proper suitable antimicrobial agent, then only you can have the effective therapeutic outcome. So that here you, whenever you want to go with a selection of suitable agent, you have to consider all these factors. So that is, the first one is the identification of the microbe. Now, so how you can select the antimicrobial agent means you have to depend on all these factors and you have to select the suitable agent. The first one is the identification of the microbe, because different microorganisms are responsible for different infections. Whenever you don't know the infection is caused by a protozoan parasite, or it is because of the fungal parasite, or it is because of bacteria, in bacteria also whether it is because of gram positive or gram negative bacteria, that you should know, because we are having various drugs, that is a wide range of drugs which can act against different sets of microorganisms. So that first you have to know the infection is caused by which microbe. For that you have to identify the microbe which is responsible for that so and so infection. That's why identification of the microbe is one of the very important factor during the selection of antimicrobial agent. So whenever you are going with identification, there are different techniques available for the identification of the microbe. You can go with the direct visualization, and where you have to identify the microbe. So if you see the infections, many of the infections may be systemic infections. It may be not a localized infections. You can have some systemic infections. So that generally it is recommended to collect the sterile fluid, which is generally sterile. So whenever you are having the sterile fluid infected with some microorganism, you can have the microorganisms in that sterile fluid. So what are general sterile body fluids? It can be the blood, it can be the urine, it can be the cerebrospinal fluid, it can be the peritoneal fluid. So these body fluids are usually they are sterile. If there is some infection, they will be infected with the microorganisms. So you have to collect those body fluids and you have to check for the microorganisms, so that you can identify the microorganism. And the different techniques which you can use for identification of the microbes is, you can go with the direct visualization. That means you are taking that body fluid, or you are taking the sample in which you just check for the presence of different organisms, microorganisms, using different staining techniques. You can go with some gram staining like techniques, and you can have the visualization whether there is gram positive or gram negative, or there is some acid fast bacteria which is responsible for that infection, that you can aware of. Next one is whenever you are going with the direct visualization, whenever you are having very less count of the microorganisms, in such cases there can be the false negative result. So that generally it is recommended for the culture. So you have to take that sample, and that sample is cultured. So cultured means you are multiplying the bacteria or whatever that microorganisms in proper conditions, so that once after culture, if you are visualizing that one, it will be very easy to identify, and you will have specific identification will be possible after culture, even though there is a very sparsity of the microorganisms after culture, as there is growth of the microorganism, that particular microorganism only, so that you can easily identify after culture. So culture is a very common technique which you can use. Next one is the antigen testing. So here you have to check for the for that microorganisms products like proteins. So some of the components are very specific to that particular microorganism. So you have to check for those components. That is called as antigen testing. Next one is DNA RNA testing. So here it is very specific test. So here you can identify the DNA and RNA, and DNA and RNA they are specific for each and every organism, including microorganisms. So if you are having a particular DNA, means it indicates the presence of particular bacteria. If you are having the presence of particular RNA, means you will have the identification of particular microorganism. So if you see the coronavirus, nowadays we are going with the antigen testing as well as the DNA and RNA testing that is done by the RT-PCR technique. So that we are telling that RT-PCR is precise than the antigen testing because it is identifying the specific RNA. As corona is a RNA virus, you can say that that specific RNA is detected by this particular RT-PCR technique. And one more technique which you can use for the identification of the microbes is immune testing. That means you have to check for the immune reaction. That means here you have to go with the antibodies estimation. So there can be some specific antibodies developed to a particular antigen. So in such cases, by estimating those antibodies or by detecting or identifying that antibodies, you can know about the specific organism which is responsible for that particular infection. That means all these are related to the microorganism and this is related to the host response to that microorganism. Any of these tests you can use for the identification of the microbe. Next one is the organism susceptibility. So although you have identified the microorganism, your drug, that is for example, you are telling that gram-positive, the particular infection is caused by the gram-positive bacteria. Again, in the gram-positive bacteria, there are many drugs which can act against gram-positive bacteria. Among those drugs which you have to take, that means some of the drugs may be effective against that particular bacteria, but now the bacteria has developed the resistance to a particular drug. So now it is not susceptible. So that you have to identify the susceptibility of that particular microorganism to the selected drug. That is also very, very important. So how you can check the susceptibility means here first you have to select whether you will go with a bactericidal agent or you will go with a bacteriostatic. That thing first you have to decide. Because for example, in case of immunocompromised patient or in case of severe infections, you have to select a bactericidal agent because there is no help of host immune system. But if you see the normal persons, in them the immune system is actually working, so that even though you are using a bacteriostatic agent which can decrease the growth of the bacterial colony, then what of the remaining bacteria can be eliminated by the host immune response. So all the chemotherapeutic agents, their action depends on the host immune response also, because if you are going with this chemotherapeutic agent or whatever your antimicrobial agent, that is doing its work, and your immune system, it is aiding to expel those the remaining infectious microorganisms which are reduced by the so and so antimicrobial agent. But in the immunocompromised patient, what happens? There will be no immune help or immune system ability to help the antimicrobial agent. In such cases, you have to go with a bactericidal agent, that also in high concentrations you have to use when compared to the normal persons. Next one is, and here whenever you are deciding whether bactericidal, bacteriostatic, then you have to go with determination of MBC or MIC concentration. So here susceptibility can be determined by determining or by calculating this minimum bactericidal concentration. If it is a bactericidal drug, you have to determine minimum bactericidal concentration. If it is a bacteriostatic drug, you have to determine minimum inhibitory concentration. How you can determine this one means you have to go with a testing. So I think you in microbiology lab you have done the MBC or MIC estimation and determination. So here what you have to do, you have to take the test tubes which are having different concentration of antimicrobial agent. So here first you are taking different concentrations of antimicrobial agent. For example, starting with the 0.5 unit per ml. Here the antimicrobial agent concentration is 0.5 micro units per ml, and here 1 unit per ml, and here 2, and here 4, and here 16, and here you have taken some 32 units. So like this is the increased concentrations of antimicrobial agent you have taken. Now what you have to do, you have to take that culture. Already you identify that particular microorganism, so you just inoculate that culture into all these test tubes. After inoculation, you just go with the incubation. So the incubation should be done for a period of 24 hours. So at 37 degrees centigrade, we are leaving these test tubes which are having different concentrations of antimicrobial agent in which the test microorganism is inoculated. So now we are subjecting them for the incubation for 24 hours. After 24 hours, you just observe these test tubes. So if you observe these test tubes, in some of the test tubes you may have the growth of the bacteria, that means you will have the turbidity, and in some you may not have the growth of the bacteria. So generally in which you don't have the bacterial growth in the high concentration, as in so for example here it is very low concentration, so that here there is more and more growth of bacteria, and it is somewhat high concentration, so relatively less microbial growth. Here still less, and here very sparse, and here you are not at all having. So this is 1 unit, and this is 2 units, this is 4, and this is 16, and it is 32, 0.5. So from 0.5, and this is 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 16, and this is 32. So like this we are having different concentrations are there where we can have this type of observation. So here if you see the 16 units, here there is no growth of no growth of microorganism. So this 16 units becomes whatever your MIC, that means minimum inhibitory concentration. Minimum inhibitory concentration is the concentration of the antimicrobial agent which is responsible for inhibiting the growth of bacteria. MIC is the minimum concentration of antimicrobial agent which can inhibit the growth of bacteria. So here in this particular example 16 units is the MIC. And next one is, so you have to, if your drug is a bactericidal agent, in such cases what you have to do, you have to go with the subculture. Subculture means from this only you have to take. So here in the 16 units you won't have any microbial growth. So that what you have to do, again you have to take different concentration of antimicrobial agent, but generally MBC concentration will be more than MIC concentration, no? So that here you can start with 16, 32, 164, 128, like that you have taken. And now what you are doing, you have to, from this 64, that is 16 units where you don't have any microbial growth, this is subcultured into this broth containing different concentrations of antimicrobial agent. So again you wait for 24 hours. After addition you wait for 24 hours. So if you see after 24 hours, if you test these test tubes, here even before you may not having the microbial growth here. Now after the 24 hours you can have the light growth of microorganisms. And in 32 also you are having very slight growth of microorganisms. But if you see the 64 there is no growth, and 128 definitely won't have any growth. So this 64 becomes your MBC. That is minimum bactericidal concentration. So how you can define the minimum bactericidal concentration? It is the minimum concentration of antimicrobial agent which can kill the microorganism. So previously we told which can inhibit the microorganisms. Now we are telling which can kill the microorganisms. MBC is the minimum concentration of the antimicrobial agent which can kill the microorganisms. So like that you have to decide the MBC or MIC. For example, we are having two drugs. One drug is A and second one is B. Both are belonging to the same class. So one drug is showing, so say they are having bacteriostatic agent, bacteriostatic action. So MIC of this is 16 units per ml. Whereas the B drug MIC is 32 units per ml. So which drug you will choose? Which is better? Just think, which is better? Definitely you have to go with the A drug because the MIC is less, that is at less concentration only it is showing that inhibitory activity. A is showing the inhibitory activity at 16 units only, whereas B requires 32 units for showing the same action. So you can say that A is the whatever that particular microorganism is susceptible more to the A. So better to go with the A. Like this, you have to select depending on the susceptibility of the microorganism, you have to select the drug. The next one is the site of infection. So site of infection is also very important factor during the selection, because if you see some sites, those sites are not easily reached by different drugs. For example, if the infection is in CNS, we know that CNS is protected by blood-brain barrier. So that many of the compounds, they cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. And if you are, for example, if you are using a drug but it is having the water solubility, so water soluble drugs cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, because blood-brain barrier permeability requires high lipid solubility and low molecular weight, and it should have no protein binding. So if your drug is having more protein bound nature, or it is having very high molecular weight and it is having low lipid solubility, means in such cases your drug cannot enter the CNS where it can act. So that means although your drug is a very efficacious drug and it is the organism is susceptible to your drug, if it cannot reach the site of action, there will be no use of the drug. So that here, depending on site of infection, you have to confirm. That is, for example, in case of the CNS, you have to go with a lipophilic drug. But there is some exceptions may be there. For example, if you see in meningitis, you can use one of the drug of choice in meningitis is penicillin. Penicillin G. If you see the penicillins are generally, they are water soluble drugs. So their permeability through the blood-brain barrier is very, very low. But in case of penicillin G, although it is having less permeability, why we are using penicillin G in meningitis means in meningitis there will be physiological change occurs in the blood-brain barrier. The permeability of the blood-brain barrier increases, so that the penicillin G penetration will increase in case of meningitis. That's why in meningitis you can use the penicillins. So like this, you may have some exceptions, but generally depending on the site of action, you have to determine whether that drug is reaching or not. One more thing you can say, if you see the infection where you are having and that is anaerobic conditions. So if you are having the infection in some cavities, like in tuberculosis, all the drugs can't act, because some of the drugs, they are not able to kill the anaerobic bacteria. In such cases, there is no use of using those drugs. Again, you have to go with the drug which can kill that anaerobic bacteria. And if you see some drugs, that is the same example you can see. If you see that some of these cavities, they will have the acidic nature, pH will be very low, where some drugs becomes inactive. So in such cases, using those drugs in that particular infections, there will be no use. So that's why site of infection is also very, very important, which can decide the selection of antimicrobial agent. Next.